I welcome you. I have some also other great news for you, and that is we have hired a part-time counselor to focus on the middle school, and her name is Lena Utek. And over the course of the year, I hope you get a chance to meet her. Her office is on the first floor. It is right near the reception desk, so please stop in and say hello to her. When I do these developmental profiles, I always start by saying that there's so much to factor in when you're talking about growth and development. First of all, the age of a child, and we've kind of looked at some of the ages here, and as you can see, it's an interesting journey from 13 to 14, and for a few it may even be just barely 13, or even a few might even have a 12-year-old. I have a handout that I'm going to give at the end of today, which spans the developmental issues of 8th graders. And those of you who are not able to be here, I will have these available with Edie Linsberry, who is the secretary in the middle school. So please stop by for that. So the age is important, but gender also. I mean, we always say that boys may develop a little bit slower than girls. Along with that, the placement in the family, oldest, middle, younger child. And in addition to that, the experiences that shape and mold a family. But perhaps the most important is that unique, wonderful, beautiful quality of their temperament and personality that's totally their own. Now, as I do this profile, I really want to give you a sense of hope and a sense of patience. Because typically when we look at this 8th grade year, there is a withdrawal that's happened already at 13. 13-year-olds tend to withdraw and get into their heads, but 13-year-olds are a little bit more confusing because they withdraw and yet they're in your face. So they want to be apart and want to be with you. But with the turning of 14, there is really a movement to being further apart in trying to figure out who I am and what I'm about. Please don't let that scare you, because that is an important part. You're not losing them. They just need, at this point in time, to kind of, in their head, think about who they are and what they're about. Parents always ask me, is there a book? Is there a book that I can read that would help me understand my child at this age? I always say, let's start with a conversation. But I have two that I want to recommend to you today. The Parenting with Love and Logic has a wonderful book called Parenting Teens with Love and Logic. And this has actually been updated and expanded. I would encourage you to really take a look at this. Also to go to their website, www.loveandlogic.com. Now, I know over the course of the years we've really talked about girl issues and books for girls. This summer I had an opportunity to read something that was very helpful for boys. So parents of boys, I would encourage you to take a look at this. But if you have girls also, you might want to look at some of the practical ideas. This book is called That Crumpled Paper Was Due Last Week, and it's helping disorganized and distracted boys succeed in school and life. What I like about this book is its practical strategies in organization and time management, and it really helps parents, it's written for parents, understand, even with all of the influence of media that's out there, how to set some boundaries for that, and really how to empower young people in the middle school and on into the high school years. Another website I would like you to look at is, parents are asking often about film and media and books for young people, and www.commonsensemedia.com is a website that will help you with that and understanding what's developmentally appropriate. So let's talk about this journey of the 8th grader. One pediatrician often refers to these 8th graders as having the 5 I's: impulsive, intense, idealistic, immediate, meaning wanting everything now, and indestructible. So then he goes on to call them as also possessing the 6 M's: moody, messy, monosyllabic, mouthy, money-oriented, and me-oriented. a very interesting time in the lives of these young people. As a matter of fact, you may feel like they're two different people. One when they're with you, and then another person when they're here at school and with their friends. They tend to be withdrawing from the family and wanting to not so much be with family activities as they move more and more into this journey of 14. And as they withdraw, it causes stress and tension. They need to do this often to get away from younger siblings who at this point they may find very, very annoying. They're thinking hard about who are they and what are they going to do in life, in the world. They're very serious that way. And yet, the irony is when they're with their friends, they're loud, they're mouthy, they're impulsive, and when 8th graders are in the hallway, I know when they're in the hallway. It's like a mob, just loud, and they don't do things slowly, they're kind of running, they're excited. And yet, at home, they may be quiet and withdrawn. 13 into 14 is so much rapid change, and including physical change. For girls, by the end of the 13th year, most have achieved about 95% of their growth. For boys, as they move into 14, they really start accelerating in terms of their growth and development. However, this brings with it a hyper self-conscious nature. 13 into 14 seems to be fascinated with the mirror, and they may look at a mirror more than at any other time, observing and looking at all the changes. They look at themselves and seem to find something always wrong. They don't like their ears, they don't like their nose, they don't like their hair. They are hypercritical at 13 about their bodies and the changes that are happening. And as they move into 14, they still have sensitivity to it, but are less critical. However, I have to say to you as parents, anyone talking about their changes really embarrasses them. In their quest to be independent, your role has changed drastically. Now, everything about you seems to be an embarrassment. How you dress, your politics, your thinking, your view of the world, you don't seem to understand. And in their minds, they know everything, and you know very little. This is that quest to become more of an independent person. And I can assure you, as you journey in these adolescent years, as they move into their 20s, they will come back to you by 27, and you will have gained your wisdom and understanding. So please hang on. Moms, I have to say to you, relationships with daughters in this particular year and then in the next few can be very intense and with a lot of argument and challenge, as daughters in particular are trying to figure out who they are and what they're about. This is a time where they worry and brood a lot about things and have a very serious nature. So all of this energy going on inside, also there is this great busyness and quest for knowledge. And the life of an 8th grader is all about the social world of school. And in the relationships, boys and girls, even that is changing. I look at our school dances. Early 13-year-olds, boys in particular, are very awkward at the school dances, kind of like standing back and watching. As they move more into 14, boys begin to discover a greater interest in girls, and at our dances there is much more interaction. In 8th grade, you will hear more than even 7th grade about couples. And so boy-girl relationships as couples become quite the topic of conversation. They are not necessarily long-term, and the breakup is agonizing, and everybody knows about it. This is a time of extreme expression of sadness in terms of those relationships. As we look at their health, generally their health will be better. But they want all of everything in terms of activity. And so you will find that after school life of activities just is endless, and the time commitments for that. And then they come home and it's time to do homework, and they may not necessarily have all of the time and energy that they need for that. They have developed a very fine-tuned sense of debate ability here in this year. And they like to debate for the fun of it. At early 13, they debate to kind of like make you mad. But now they like to spar with you about these things. And you can just tell how their thinking is growing and developing with that. They love sarcasm. I should rephrase that. They love to dish out sarcasm. They are not great recipients of sarcasm. And so you need to really kind of be aware of that. Bedtime, and we were going to have a parent ed program about sleep. 9:30 to 10 or so is really kind of the usual time for bedtime for 8th graders. However, I find most of them go to bed much later. And one of the things that you really need to understand is with all that's going on in their head and all of the physical activities that they're involved, they really need their rest and they need to regroup. Sort of their enemy at this point is technology. And so I really encourage you that, and I love what this book has to say, is that when it's bedtime, that you collect media instruments, their phones, and make sure screens are turned off, and that it's off through the night. And they can let their friends know that, you know, I'll be back in action tomorrow, but at this certain time, all of the technology is turned off in our house. I think you need to be aware of that their sense of moral code and ethics, as they move into 8th grade, they know about other people's thinking, but they really like to kind of base their decisions now upon themselves and how they interpret things. And unfortunately, the part of the brain that controls good decision making and impulsivity is not fully developed. And it's not going to be fully developed until they're into 21 or so. And so they make impulsive decisions and sometimes very poor choices. And that relates to alcohol and other substances. It relates to sexual behaviors. It relates to just the things that they say and that they do. And so be aware of it. It's a teachable and learning time. As parents, it's so important that you let them learn from the choices that they make. And we're going to talk more about that this morning. Really, they need at 8th grade to face the consequences of their choices. And in 8th grade, it's really about empowering them to see that this is what situation happened, what did they do, what could they do different, how are they going to resolve it. Whether it's issues with not having their homework done or issues in their relationship with each other. As a matter of fact, this can be a bumpy road for girls in their relationship with each other because of what I call social memory. And that is that they still remember things that happened even in maybe 3rd grade or so, and those hurts are very vivid. There is a restlessness that's going to develop this year as the year moves on, that they're really ready to be done with this whole middle school stuff, and they're ready for the upper school. They may also let you know very early that, you know what, they're not a child anymore, so they feel they can deal with all of the responsibilities and privileges that the upper school and high school bring. You really need to set clear boundaries for them. And you really need, and we're going to talk a lot about that this morning, those parenting boundaries. They need clear, fair boundaries, but they really do need them. They also need to know that if they make a mistake, you will, or they get in a situation, that they can come to you, no questions asked at the moment, and you will remove them from that situation that they're in. So what I hope you can appreciate is that in this quest for who am I, that they really need to go within themselves. And they're testing out things. Even in friendship, you may find that as they move into 14, that their friends change, and their friends may have very little in common with them, but that they find that fascinating. So, this morning, as we look at this capsule of the 8th grader, I really encourage you to be patient, to be kind, to be understanding, and to share with each other. Thank you.